People who did poorly in school, did it really affect you later on in life? Not at all. Grades don't really matter, especially the school ones. Right now I'm at the university getting my second degree and honestly I'm doing way better than what I did at school. Well, to get into a good university you need good high school grades. Very few jobs really care about the fact that you went to a good uni. I mean, if you're going to be in a professional doctor, lawyer, academic researcher, etc. job, then sure. But for your average white light blue collar management job, most people don't care. They care about what you can do for them right now. This is even more apparent in it, where it's all about skill set. I feel like a ton of people are being snowed into believing that they need to go to an Ivy or other prestigious school to end up getting a decent job when they aren't even pursuing a specialized degree. I don't think the perception is that an Ivy League education is needed, but that in general a college education is needed. And you can only go so far if you're dicking around through school or the workplace. Not entirely. I was constantly in summer school for failing grades all the way up until high school. In high school, I was sent to an alternative school due to grades. It was actually at that point I realized that school itself wasn't the reason I was doing bad. It was the way I was being taught. For some reason sitting in a classroom being lectured does not work for me. Sitting by myself with a book or on a computer does. I'm currently attending DVRY completely online with a 4.0 GPA and have made the dean's list. I work in a data center making decent money as well. Getting an education is important because it not only gives you a basic amount of knowledge, but teaches you life skills in interacting with people. If you happen to be reading this and are doing poorly in school, see if there are other options like alternative schools you can attend. I would argue most people find that it's not school itself that's a drag, but the way you are being taught. It didn't. I was always smart, but lazy and unmotivated. I was an awful student in junior high, managed to get into a decent HS. Public schools were awful, so more people went to private schools from my area. Dicked around, slept in class, never studied. Graduated HS with a sub 3.0, but took an app class and did some extracurriculars, got into decent 4-year university. Didn't do great in college, mostly laziness and partying. Had to legitimately teach myself how to take notes and how to study, as I never really did either before. Took 4 years and 2/4 plus 3 years of summer school to improve grades to graduate, but got my degree in what I wanted to, but still ended up with less than a 3.0. Bulk applied to entry-level jobs in my field, and now I'm a senior manager position after 4 years, which is generally a 8 to 10 year experience level position in the open market. I did bad because I was lazy and school did not really interested me much. I didn't think I was that smart, but while playing video games or understanding whatever else, I'd learn very quickly, so I had that. I also had an average undergrad because of my laziness. When I started working, everything clicked and I found it very interesting. I also learned I wasn't dumb at all, just lazy. Now I'm the country director of a very well-known and prestigious fashion brand. I also just finished my MBA with 3.40 GPA because I tried to avenge my previous underperforming schoolwork. School should give you the tools you need to succeed at work. It's up to you to learn how to use them. It's better to learn how to be good at work than whatever boring subject at school. Learn how to follow up and execute tasks. Have a great sense of urgency. Don't be afraid to ask questions and put your full effort into constantly learning whatever you can. I did very poorly in math, English, and history. I don't really understand all the fancy new mechanics they tried teaching me in English class, and when it came to history, it was just flat out boring to me. Math was difficult for me because I have dyscalculia, dyslexia, but with numbers. I would say that it did not affect me very negatively at all. I can add and subtract when I need to. I can balance a checkbook, never ran into debt. Never ran into a history subject that couldn't be solved with a quick Google search. And as for English, I'm actually a writer and have been one all my life. I know where a semicolon goes. I know how dialogue works. I know my tenses and I know how to spell things. I know the rules of where character dialogue goes, and I know to capitalize my proper nouns. Like Mark Twain advised, I never did let school get in the way of my education. I turned out just fine. not the actual results part. That's been entirely irrelevant for me personally, as I went into a trade. I think though, that I missed out on an important aspect of school, and that is a need to be categoric to lead a successful life. So yes and no. The words I can't put on my CV aren't an issue for me, but lacking the resolve to do well at school and coasting through it, that has been a problem for me. That means it is hard to change later on. I agree. I'm in a trade as well. It pays great for my area, benefits are good. I did the same thing in high school, just coasted through doing just enough to get out. Now later in life I've decided it wasn't the subject matter or your grades that were important. It was learning how to study and having that resolve that sets people apart academically. My plan is now to get my children to understand what is important, and hopefully they will be more successful than I. I got a lot of D's in high school, but I had issues. I was still able to test into app classes and stuff. I basically tested my way into a state college that heavily weighted ACT scores. Once in college, I got a 1.44 my first semester. Then I realized I didn't want to fail out of college, so I decided to go to all the classes and do all the readings. Got over a 3.50 my next semester and graduated 4 years later. I'm now working in a field that wasn't even what I got my degree for, but it took some luck. I would say it both affected me and didn't. I still did okay, have a good job, functioning member of society, etc. And I know that if I'd applied myself and dealt with my issues much earlier, I might have been more successful financially, but I probably wouldn't have had the same experiences along the way. So, A. Straight A student through elementary school, unremarkable grades in middle, and by the time depression hit me full force in high school I graduated with 0.01 of a GPA above what was required to walk. I think it was 2.5, and I got 2.51. I'm an autodidactic learner, so even though I went to college, it was the skills knowledge that I taught myself that earned me a pretty solid career. Could I have done better and done it sooner? Sure. But I don't think it had anything to do with my grades, and had everything to do with me bouncing around between jobs that interested me instead of picking a career path. Truthfully, I almost wish I had followed my original plan, dropped out in 10th, gotten my GED, started college and graduated with an AA when most of my friends were getting their HSDs. I would have avoided the worst 2 years of my high school experience, and probably turned out better because of it. I didn't do poorly, so to speak, but I was certainly below average. I'm 34 now, and my career is going better than most I went to school with. I've found that, even if you aren't the brightest in the classroom, as long as you show up on time every day, and do your best work, you're already ahead of 90% of your competition. As long as you show up on time every day, and do your best work, you're already ahead of 90% of your competition. This is true. However, in my experience, this quality is more common with people with better grades. These are people who have learned to show up every day and do what is expected of them. People who cut class, blow off assignments, and don't study have to develop those attributes after a school career of goofing off. I think good grades are generally a good indication of people who will show up every day and do their best work. No, however, I was smart enough to test my way past everything and skip the rest. I tested my way into a tough university, and there I had to learn study habits and actually do the work. Did my expensive, fancy, and well-respected college degree help me? Nope, but it's where I met my wife, so it was good for something. If you aren't naturally smart or don't learn outside of school, you will be negatively affected. See that? I used affected correctly, but I didn't learn that in school. Just from observing on my own. You can do poorly in school if it's because it bores you. If you legitimately don't know what's being discussed or taught, you should pay attention and learn it. I would have teachers be sarcastic with me about not paying attention or not showing up all the time, but it was because I was challenged and didn't feel the need for praise. I'd ace the tests and resume truancy. Certainly, I've always been a horrible student. C.D. averages in high school, managed to get to a good college based off of a high SAT score, failed out of that college, almost failed out of another college. It took me a long time to realize that I wasn't able to effectively learn and grow at school. I took a summer internship doing customer support for a company, found out I was good at it, and enjoyed working. 5 years later I'm a manager at a tech startup in potentially a better position than I would have been in if I had graduated college normally. But that's not to say that it hasn't been without struggles. I recognize that I had to work a lot harder than a lot of my peers to get to where I am, and not having a degree will continue to be a hindrance in regards to things like job opportunities, social stigmas, earning opportunities, etc. I did poorly in school, and I'm in a financially bad place now and probably for the rest of my life. But I would be in this position regardless of education, because the things that are keeping me out of work are the same things that kept me from doing better in school. So I wouldn't say my poor grades had much effect on where I'm now, especially considering after school, I had other opportunities I wasn't able to pursue because of my issues. I honestly think that if my issues had gone away after school and I was able to continue with my opportunities, my lack of GCSEs wouldn't have made any difference because there are always other ways to get qualifications. I was never a candidate for some high prestige college or university where my grades would have mattered. So no, I don't think it affected my life in any significant way in itself. I was misdiagnosed with a learning disability in high school. I was forced into way slower classes than everyone and almost had to legally go back a couple grades. Everyone thought I was just this kid who needed a ton more help and who didn't understand simple things like math or reading. But in reality I was fine. I just needed help studying because I didn't have a great memory. I got really depressed senior year and wasn't sure I wanted to continue living because I couldn't fathom entering the real world with everything I've been told about myself. It has been 6 years since I graduated, and yeah, things get hard every once in a while, but I'm way better than I was in high school. I have a great job, and I'm currently looking to go back to school for a degree. It's hard sometimes, but it always turns out okay.